And welcome back, racing fans, to another exhilarating edition of Behind the Gate podcast with Scott and Kate. And we'd like to thank our sponsors. This is our 7th episode. And we'd like to welcome aboard MCK Truck and Train, a great transportation company. Of course, Blaine McKenna. A lot of people know Blaine, and he's done a fantastic job over the years trucking the horses around. And so make sure you see him for your transportation needs. So as I mentioned, this is the 7th episode of Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate. And we've got a super special guest that we've been waiting to have on here. And I'm going to throw it to my co-host, Caitlin Wesley, to do an introduction to our featured guest tonight. Caitlin.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I'm super excited to have Corey Macpherson on. He's a power host of harness racing. He's, into it with his own stable. He has victories under his belt that are pretty amazing. And he's just like an all-around awesome guy to get to know. And his stats from last year definitely show. Like, they are huge. The year you had Corey was outrageous. Like, it was awesome. So I'm so excited to have you on to get to know more regarding who you are, but also your racing side as well. So welcome aboard, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
So last year was like a huge racing year for you. You had 974 starts, but you had 185 wins out of that, 158 seconds, and 156 thirds. Like, that's huge. Like, that's awesome. Like, you really dominated last year. Like, that's wicked.
Yeah, it was a huge year. I drove a lot of good horses and did a lot of traveling and had a lot of luck, really. Just luck is a big part of it.
Yeah, some other stats that jump out too, Corey. You had the highest earnings as a driver in the Maritimes last year, and you went over $4 million in career earnings, and your lifetime driving average is up over 300. So congratulations on a super year. You were leading driver at Summerside with 61 wins, a 405 driving average, which was super. And you won almost 25% of your races. So as Caitlin said, fabulous a year for you.
Yeah, like I say, I'd love to try and match it again next year, but it'd be pretty tough to follow that one up. But a lot of it is just great people and great horses, and I try not to screw it up.
Yeah, and I say people, Corey, tell our listeners kind of what made you get into harness racing. Was it more through family connections, or did you get hooked on the sport in some other way?
My grandfather, Glenn Taylor, had horses. They had the Rosetown prefix.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people remember Rosetown Eagle. He was a pretty good old horse.
Yeah.
And my grandfather had horses, and I spent a lot of time down there as a kid. And then just got hooked through him. And my uncle always had horses with my grandfather, and my cousin Jeff Taylor, he was involved quite heavily, and he actually is the track man at Rito Carlton right now. So a lot of it is family connection.
Oh, awesome. So what part of PEI are you from, Corey?
I'm from Vernon River. It's kind of middle of the island. And my grandfather was from St. George's. It's way more down east.
Oh, okay. So you definitely came through your harness racing history in an honest way, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're considered like a full-time horseman. You are involved every day of the operations of your stable. Take us through like a day of your operations. Like, who else is also involved in your stable to, get it going?
Yeah. Well, right now, just moving to the track, I'm kind of just getting into my daily routine now of it's so much different being in at the racetrack than it was out at the farm. So now like just getting them jogged every day is a huge part of it and takes way longer in at the track, but uh it's been better. I shouldn't say it's been better in there. It's been different, but it's been a lot of fun. And so right now at the track, I try to get there by 7:30 or earlier and just start jogging. And ever since probably November, less weight he has now showing and Soccer Hanover. He's been there a lot, helping me doing the stalls, jogging a few. And my wife on her days off, she comes in and does the stalls and gets horses ready and helps put away. It's a harness racing's always a family affair.
How
Absolutely.
many how many horses do you have now, Corey?
I have 11 at the racetrack and two out at the farm right now, so 13.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit? I know you've certainly had success over the years with young horses, and you probably got some young horses in your barn. What have you got for some 2-year-olds this year? And is there any that's kind of popping out for you?
I have four babies right now. I have three pacers and one trotter. The first one is Bet the Moon Colt. He's half brother to Rosetown Mary. He's out of our own mare, Brody's Leona. His name's Rosetown Eclipse. He goes good. He's got a he's kind of like his sister in a way. He's pretty goofy, but I think the engine's there, so he goes good right now. So we'll see what he's got to offer. And I bought a Bet the Moon filly at the sale, Woodmere Moonshine, and
Okay.
it's sister to Woodmere Sky Roller, which I had success driving with. So I keep telling
Yeah.
my filly every day who her sister is. So hopefully she figures
Yeah.
that out. So far, she goes good. Uh, I have a bunch of people that bought in on her, so hopefully she goes well for everybody that's involved. And I have a Roll Terry Colt that I got off Belinda White and David White, and we sold pieces of him out to a couple other people, and he goes good so far. He's not a real big guy, but he really wants to be a horse, so hopefully that shows up in the track. And I have a 6-pack trotter for Carl Bagnall, and so far he trots real good. He's staying on the trot. He doesn't show any running yet, so that's a big plus with a young trotter. So they all show as good as you can expect right now. So hopefully that keeps going.
So, what made you take the initiative to move off of the farm and move on to the track this year?
Uh, it's something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
It it just was timing, I guess. The stalls came available, which was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And like I say, I thought about it over the years, and then it was like I don't know yet. Maybe I'll wait a little longer, and maybe I'll give it a shot. And then it was just kind of it was more timing. I had enough horses to kind of break out on my own, and I figured a bunch of good owners that would support me, and it just I don't know, it just felt like the right time. I really loved being at the farm, and it was really close to home, but I guess if you're going to be full time and try and make a living at it, you got to break out at some point.
No, exactly. Go ahead, Caitlin.
As a trainer, you've been training since 2007, which has been a while now. So you've been around the block. um,
Yeah.
you've doubled your starts, you doubled your wins, you doubled your earnings. What was it like to finish off on such a high with your own stable? Like that must have been like a thrill. Just to know like you started from one thing and you ended up here this year, like last year, like it must have been pretty good.
Yeah, it was great. It's always nice to have your own stock race good. It's nice to win races as a driver, but it's way better when you win with one of your own. And then at least when you go back to the barn, everybody's happy there too. So no, it's great. And I remember when I first moved to the track, we went raced a couple weeks, and I was like, oh no, I don't know, like I can't win a race, and am I ever going to win a race out of the barn moving here? Then once it started, it was crazy. It was just like win after win after win for a while. So
Yeah.
it got pretty rewarding after a while.
I was going to
Awesome.
ask you, I was going to ask you too, Corey, as far as Summerside and Charlottetown, you're a regular at Summerside Raceway. So do you find the schedule being tough doing both tracks? And have you thought about scaling back a little bit, or going to keep the same schedule as you have?
I would say I'll keep trucking. I'm going to
Yeah,
race as much as I can when I can. Uh, you got to show up to the track. I know there's a few guys that don't go to Summerside anymore, but I like going to Summerside. I'm really happy they cut out the Sundays. I really don't like racing on Sunday if I can help it. But
yeah,
I do like going to Summerside. I see I get nice horses to drive up there. They're good people. You go up
yeah.
there, you have fun, you go home kind of thing. I take some of my own up there by times, but usually I just like to go up and drive for the afternoon.
No, awesome. Now, out of your career wins, Corey, you've had a number of big moments. Of course, winning last year's Diamond Classic, for example. But when you look back on your career, what would you define as probably your biggest win of your career so far?
While money would have to be the Diamond Classic.
Yeah,
Uh, I've had, like you say, I've had a lot of big wins. I've had a lot of success. It's been really great. Uh, like you say, winning with your own is always huge. Winning with our homebred Rosetown Mary, she had a really good season this year,
you did.
and she
Yeah,
won some pretty nice stakes. When she set a track record in Summerside, that was it didn't really sink in. I was like on the way home, I said, "Wow, she broke a track record today. Haven't done
yeah,
that with my own forever." Like so,
yeah.
yeah, probably her winning that stake race in Summerside and setting a track record. That was pretty big.
Now, what about what's the biggest race you probably want to win? You being an Islander, I'm sure probably the Gold Cup and Saucer for sure, right?
Yeah, the Gold Cup would be surreal. It's just I was only in it twice, and I didn't really have great results, but just to be on the track during that time of Old Home Week and so many people being there and under the lights, it's just unbelievable. So to actually win that race would be nuts.
Yeah. And I think Caitlin's got a question for you on the Diamond Classic. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, last year you had a chance to, go in the first Diamond Classic. We were kind of up in the air if it was going to happen or if it was going to happen. So it happened. Before you actually went behind the gate, what was playing, in your mind? Because you knew you had some really good fillies in there with you. And, you had a good chance. Like you had an awesome chance. Like everybody else in there had a really good chance. But I know myself when I go behind the gate in an amateur race, I have everything playing in my mind. Like, do I leave? Do I sit back? Do I what do I do? Like, was there a game plan going in, or was it just go and see what happens?
Well, when the draw came out, I was real happy that I didn't draw outside of five. And I was real happy to see that Good Morning Nova was just to the inside of me. When I saw that, I was pretty sure that I was going to get a good trip out of it. I had to leave against Barrio just to test the waters, and he set sail out with his filly. And when I sat in 2 hole, I said, "I'm pretty sure this is my race to win now." But I was when I like I say when I saw the draw, I was pretty sure that's how it might work out. And when it did start working out that way, I was pretty happy.
I could tell going across that wire, you were all like,
Yeah.
you knew you had it in the pocket. You knew. And just to see you raise your whip, you were like, that, yes, it's mine. And I was like, perfect. Like, that's awesome. Like, it was a nail biter at the end. That's for sure.
In the last turn, I drove up on Jill's helmet just a touch, and he really started getting into his filly, and mine just muscled up, and I said, "I'm going by this." She loves a helmet. She loves to pace by a helmet. So when I moved her, I said, "I got it." So it was pretty exhilarating.
That's awesome.
Yeah, certainly an iconic picture too. You down the stretch and holding the whip up, and you could tell how exuberant you were with that win. So certainly a great win. And you've won so many races, Corey, as we've talked about so far tonight. And remember some of the state courses that you won with, and who can forget the Real Princess being one of them. If you had to kind of rank, say, even the top three of the horses that you've driven in both overnight and stake events, who would kind of be at the top of your list, Corey?
No, I was thinking about this question all day, and I said I could name 20 horses in that
Yeah,
top five list, but the first real good stake horse I ever had the chance of driving or anything to do with was Waiting on a Woman. Uh, he was, well, thinking back, I never appreciated him half as good as he was because I was
yeah,
just young, jump on, send him down the road.
yeah.
And now thinking back, I'm thinking, God, that was a good horse. Like
He was.
I really didn't know much about driving, and I was just setting sail, and he was fast.
Yeah,
So he'd have to be in the top three. Screen Test, he
yeah,
gave me a lot of thrills. And
yeah,
another horse that I looked after him at Ronnie's, and now I train him myself. So he's given me a lot of thrills. He was in the Gold Cup that year that COVID was on.
yeah,
We were in the Governor's Plate a couple times with him. I'm pretty sure he's my fastest win, 52 and a piece.
yeah,
And that night he was just unbelievable. And there's so many people behind that horse that are in the ownership group, and they all every time that horse wins, it's just like a huge family going to the winner's circle. So he'd be in the top three, and I don't know. There's so many good horses. I'd have to. I guess I'll go back to Rosetown Mary, or do you know what? I'll actually go with her mother, Brody's Leona. She was my grandfather's last horse,
yeah,
and her first win for us was the last race he ever saw, and she won.
yeah,
And I was sitting like seventh or eighth at the head of the stretch, and
yeah,
I was like, this Scrampy's last time here, and this thing's not really racing that good. And I moved her like four wide through the last turn, and she jogged. She just drove right by them. The
yeah.
Wow.
grandstand was electric. My whole family was there. They were on their toes. And it actually almost kind of scared me when I went by them and they were all screaming. But she gave me a lot of thrills. So I'd have to go with her in my top three too.
Yeah, tell us about the Real Princess. She was so dominant for a couple years here in the Maritimes, and she found herself coming home to Mitch Downey. But what did she kind of mean to your career along the way?
Oh, it was great to drive for her. She was so easy to drive. She was so good gated. You could
Yeah,
leave, you could take back. Uh, you could move her whenever you want. Eddie always had her on her game, and no, she was a real nice filly. And I know a lot of people have asked me over of the fillies I've driven for Eddie, which was the
yeah,
nicest. And I said, you know what? She was the nicest to drive as
yeah,
far as the only weight she took was the weight of the handholds. But
yeah.
like they were all good in different ways. But the Real Princess she was a lot of fun. She was pretty simple to drive.
Yeah, she was really something special. Made way over $100,000 just in the Maritimes in a couple of years, and just a fun horse to watch. And this year, it would really surprise me, Corey, if you don't get a shot in the Atlantic Regional for the National Driving Challenge. And is it fair to say that you're looking forward to hopefully taking part in that event? And you came so close last year, and hopefully get an opportunity to represent the Maritimes.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say yes or no, but I am. I've signed the contract, so I am going to it.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, so I am involved in it this year.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's exciting. It's always nice to be. I love driving tournaments or championships of any kind because everybody's in it to win it, and you get to
Yeah.
drive some different horses that you don't usually drive, and sometimes drive against guys that you don't usually drive against. But no, it's great to be in it again this year, and hopefully we can be in the top two and go on from there.
Yeah, well, best of luck this year, and kind of breaking news that you're in it. So that's great, Corey. Wish you all the best. Not sure who the other fellows are yet, but best of luck this year for sure.
I'll need it.
You you mentioned fractional ownerships within your within your stable. It's been a hot topic for a few years now. And what is your what's your thoughts on like the fractional ownerships?
Oh, I guess really it's the way of the future for owning horses. Uh, the day of one guy owning a whole bunch in a stable is pretty well gone. But it's really intimidating when it comes to paying bills and vet bills and shoeing bills and trucking and stake payments. Like it really is, it's a lot of money. And like it's hard to get a younger generation in all by themselves. But if you get 4 or 5 young guys together and they can make some fun out of it, and if you do good, you do good, and if you don't do good, you don't do good. So there's no real big loss or big win, but if you can have some fun and make it a social thing, it's that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's great, like you say, to see so many people like on a horse like screen test, and when he's lucky enough to get a win, it just gets the people so much more involved, and the excitement around the barn and everything must be contagious and fun to be part of.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. And like you say about it, just gets more people to the racetrack. If
Yeah.
if 10 horses have 10 owners each, it's 100 people. Like it's just it fills the grandstands and it gets people to the barns and it gets people talking, and the word spreads faster through more mouths, and there's a lot of people in the younger generation now. They'll say, "Oh, my buddy's got a horse for so and so," and they're like, "Oh, geez, that's expensive." Oh no, it don't cost that much. There's a whole bunch of us in on it. Other people
Yeah.
will get talking and thinking about it then, right?
Yeah. Well, I think especially now with the economy, it's tough for people to find that added money. And as you know, going to sales now, it's not cheap to get in on, especially a young stakes horse. There's a lot of money that you can win, if you get one of the good ones, but it's intimidating when you're going there and horses are going for $30,000 and $40,000. So this is a nice alternative to get in.
Oh yeah, big time. Like I, I'm not that old, but I say you could at one time you could go with a budget of 5, 6 thousand and pretty near buy what you wanted. Now you go 5 or 6 thousand, you might not get your hand in the air. So
No,
if you have a bunch of people and put some money together, you can kind of get a healthy budget, and it makes it a lot easier, and it takes a lot of the danger factor out of it, I guess, when you have more people involved.
yeah, and it's hard to believe. Like years ago, like when I first got involved in racing years and years ago, there was, claiming races for as little as $800. You could claim a horse out of a race, and back then, some of the races were actually going for more than the price tag of the horse, which is crazy. Something like that would never fly nowadays.
No, it's the price of horses is definitely, I'm not going to say it's gone crazy, but they're pretty wild, really, when you think about a cheap horse. If you want to buy a cheap racehorse that's going to be competitive in Charlottetown, you got to have $8,000-10,000 to really give it a shot at something that's going to be competitive. But no, it's definitely a money game, but when it's
Yeah.
split up, it's more fun.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of money, Caitlin, if you want to jump in here and talk about the mares class at specifically at Red Shores and how tough it is. And Corey's got one, I believe, for the class, and get his thoughts on that.
Yeah. You have drove Chelsea for the last season, and I've seen her in Truro. I know the mare with Danny Romo, and I've seen her here, and it was like watching her leave here. She like became like this whole different horse, and she's like top class mare. What's she like? Is she on tap to come back?
Uh, she Jen Doyle moved into the track, I think 2 weeks ago. She's down in the shipping barn with her stable because her farm track's not quite good enough to train them back on right now. Damien McLennan is training for her, so I've seen him out with her a few times. She trained free-legged real good the other day, and I said, "My God, that mare looked good." So he said, "Yeah, she feels great. She looks good. She's sound." I don't know this year. I'm hoping that Rosetown Mary is good enough to race against her. So I probably won't be driving her as often this year. Maybe Damien will get the drive. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping my own is good enough to race the open mares. But it was definitely great to drive Chelsea. She was tough, like, and tough is the only word to describe her. She went some crazy big trips on the outside. You get into the last turn, you'd say, "Oh, she's done." And at the head of the stretch, she'd stick her nose out again and keep coming. So no, it was a thrill to drive her. It's a thrill to drive any great horse, but it was great to drive her this season.
Awesome. We're going to get into a couple fun questions before we wrap up this episode with Corey Macpherson. And we talked to Adam Marner, Mark Campbell, and Paul Angel, and some other drivers, Corey, and we asked them this question about who they feel is the most competitive driver that you go up against on a regular basis.
When it comes to stats, over the last however many years I've been driving,
Yeah.
I can't seem to get ahead of Mark Campbell no matter how hard I try.
Yeah.
When somebody said I had the money earnings record, I said, "Gee, there's no way. Campbell's got to have more than that." And they're like, "Oh no, you just beat out Campbell." I said, "Wow, that's something."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm always chasing his numbers. You look halfway through the season, you're saying, "Wow, I win a lot of races." Then you look and he's got you by 10, and you're like, "How does he do this?" Like nobody even notices how many he wins now. But
Yeah.
Campbell's he's tough to beat. I love beating him too, and he knows that. Uh, but there's a great bunch of guys, especially in Charlottetown, but there's a bunch of good drivers in Truro, Cape Breton, New Brunswick. Like there's a lot of good drivers, and I like beating them all.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the other guys and mentioned this to them as well, that Red Shores has I think one of the most talented driver colonies anywhere in Canada, for a small track, and almost anybody that races at Red Shores could make a go of it anywhere. Like you guys have really been lucky to have some the quality drivers that you guys do each and every week, and it's great for us racing fans.
Yeah, there's 8 or 10 guys there that, like you say, I believe they could go anywhere at all. And on Mark again, he drove in Saratoga a week or two
Yeah.
ago, and
Yeah,
he looked like he was there every week.
I
Uh,
know.
had a win, a couple seconds and a third, like so. That just kind of proves that I think most of us could go pretty near anywhere and do it. And no, it's pretty lucky to have such a good group of guys, and most of them are very good to drive against. They're very professional. Uh, Mostly don't want to see a stock, but they drive the horse the right way to
Yeah.
do a good job. But no, it's great to have such a good group of drivers to be drive against every week.
So growing up, who was kind of the idol that you kind of looked up to in maritime racing and just kind of followed his exploits and then in hoping to become a driver like you are today?
Uh, just the older guy. I shouldn't say the older guys. I guess they are the older guys now. Like Kenny
Yeah.
Arsenault, Gary Chappell, Brian McPhee, Walter Chevry. Like they all drove for my grandfather. So every time they jumped on the seat, you're like, oh wow, I want to be like that guy. So Barney McGuigan, there's a whole bunch of guys and in their day they were all top dogs too. So uh, mostly just the guys that drove in Charlottetown pretty regular. Those are always guys you kind of looked up to and asked questions and as outside the box you talk John Campbell and them types drivers, but as far
Yeah.
as home here, it's them guys.
Yeah, and you guys have got the matinee program where some of the young drivers came through, and you see some of the new young guys. Is there anybody in particular that kind of stands out to you a little bit that should have a bright future over there driving?
Brady Sweet's been on quite a roll since the year started.
Yeah.
He's driving for a pretty powerful stable right now in Jeff Holmes' barn, but
Yeah.
he does a great job. He's another guy. He's a good kid and he's not dangerous. He drives well. Uh, like he's not hard to drive against. No, Brady does a good job. Brett Clow, he's learning. He's starting to pick up some drives. I like torturing him pretty good, and
Yeah.
he takes it well. But it'd be nice to see him get some more power. He was driving for a buddy of his, Luke Burke, and they were doing well together. So I know I'm forgetting people, but those are two that just kind of come right to mind.
Oh, right on. And Caitlin's going to have the final question of the night, the easy one here for you, Corey.
So you're pretty much all about harness racing and things like that, but what do you do outside of harness racing with your family? Like you have two little girls and I'm sure they've got you wanting to go to all different places and doing fun things. Like what is your like exciting thing to do?
Uh, a few years ago, we bought a camper, and that is really my place to unwind. I love going to the camper after the races or before the races or on the weekend, Sundays, and we go to the pool and relax. Like that's the biggest thing about the campers. I can go there and completely unwind and not worry about anything else. And then we go to the beach. We go here. We go there. My youngest is in gymnastics, so we go to gymnastics every Tuesday evening and watch her. They always have me busy, like you say, but going to the campground is a big thing for me.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Corey, for jumping on and joining. I know it's not something that everyone is so used to doing, but it's something that, I always get to say that we get to find out who you are as a person. Like we always see you guys as harness racing drivers and that's what we see you as, but we also want to get to know who you are and all the exciting things about you. So thanks for coming out of your comfort zone and enjoying the podcast with us.
Thank you. It was great to be here. And I would just want to tell a funny story, just how you say you only see me at the track. I
Yeah.
went to Cape Breton one day, and I spent most of the afternoon walking around the Inverness Raceway talking to people.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And about 20 minutes before the races, I threw my suit on. I'm walking through the yard. And some of the people I talked to earlier that day said, "Geez, By, when did you get here?" And I'm thinking they had no idea who I was without a suit on. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But so I guess I'm only well known with blue and green.
No, but it's true. Like Caitlin said, like, we watch you from home. We watch, the replays and everything, and you win in races on a weekly basis, but never really get the chance to kind of talk one-on-one, learn a little bit more about you. So it's nice to see this other side of you drivers over there.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad you started doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much as we wrap up another exciting episode of the Behind the Gate podcast. So stay tuned for more thrilling discussions, interviews, and insights into the world of harness racing here in the Maritimes. And again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, MCK Truck and Train. And among our future guests will be Redmond Doucette. So we're having him on next week. So that should be a fun one. So again, thank you very much, Corey. And for myself, Scott Waddell, and my co-host, Caitlin Wesley, thanks for joining us on this episode. And we'll be back with episode 8 next week.